This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 451 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. This tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections for the entire universe of equestrian shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford at equestriancollections.com. Howdy, everybody. Glenn the Geek here from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily. Well, the next tip was taken off of episode number 153 for June the 1st, 2011 of the Horses in the Morning show. It was the Horse Health Report from thehorse.com with Christy West. And we talked about Strangles this time, and I thought it was interesting. It's not something that we have covered here on Horse Tip Daily yet, and it was a very interesting conversation. So I thought I would share it with you here. If you listen to Horses in the Morning and you've heard this before, you can go to tomorrow's tips, just skip it and head on. There's always a next one or a new one tomorrow. If you haven't heard it before, it was a very fascinating conversation, and I think that went a little gross in places, in my opinion, but I think that it was worth taking a listen to, and that's why we're playing it for you here on Horse Tip Daily. And we're going to bring that to you here in just a minute, right after I talk to you a little bit about Equestrian Collections. Here, one of the reasons I am so proud to have Equestrian Collections as a sponsor on the Horse Radio Network is they are one of the most innovative companies in the equine retail world. Their website is so easy to get around and offers so much for the shopper. One of those things it offers is numerous online catalogs. Flip through the pages just like a real catalog. Find something you like, click on it, and buy it immediately. One of the catalogs up there right now is the Summer Tent Sale catalog loaded with savings. 5 pages of savings. So you go to equestriancollections.com and click on the Tent Sale catalog right there on the home page. And flip away, find stuff you like, and buy it right there off the catalog. It's so cool. That's something you can't do when you're sitting on your couch with a catalog. So you can check out all the different catalogs available at equestriancollections.com. And, you know, we always say it, but it's true. Equestrian Collections does provide the universe of equestrian shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford. And now, the Horse Health Report from episode 153 of Horses in the Morning with my co-host Jamie Jennings and I, and Christy West representing thehorse.com.
It's time for the weekly health report from thehorse.com. Fantastic information and Christy's attempt to ruin Glenn's lunch every week.
This week because we're going to talk about delicious, yummy Strangles. Oh, it's going to be so fun. But before we get to that,
Jamie, I'm not sure we have Dr. Jones on yet, so let's say hi to Christy first.
Oh,
Good
hi,
morning.
Christy.
How are you?
How are things going? You have to have been so busy with this whole herpes gate.
I have been telling people that I've been up to my elbows, or up to my shoulders, actually, in herpes for about a week.
Yuck!
Hot for a laugh. This is another way to ruin Glenn's lunch. It wasn't even on schedule.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been busy. I'm kind of out of it a little bit now. Our news editor Erica is still covering all the updates on the outbreak quite a bit. But those 2 webinars that we ran last week went really, really well. They were very, very popular. I was really glad that we could get a lot of information out to people on such a short notice.
You said you had like thousands of listeners.
We did.
It was a ton. Yeah.
We did. It was pretty crazy trying to put together a couple of webinars on such a hot topic in less than a week. It was very busy, and it was awesome. We got a lot.
You did a good job.
Good comments. Well, thank you very much. Well, it's all this training that I've gotten on the radio show.
Yes, it's all this practice.
It's all this practice.
Yeah, I'm sure yours was a little more serious and informative. However, do you have any updates for us at all as far as those of us living out west that are kind of stuck at their houses right now?
Well, we've got a new update on our website. It went up, I believe, yesterday. Let me double check. We've got an article. It's number 18326. So if you want to type in thehorse.com/18326, or just go to the homepage. It's currently listed under the More News. Equine herpes virus outbreak weekend cases boost total numbers. And there aren't a ton of new cases. I mean, it looks like there's one new case in Idaho, another case in California. 8 total in Alberta. Another university horse in Washington. I'm just running down the list here. So.
And I know there was a new one in Texas, but it wasn't related at all to the previous outbreak.
Right, and a total of 11 in Arizona now. So, sorry, Jamie.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have our horse trials that are coming up in June. They're just really cracking down on the biosecurity. I believe that they are going to institute a temperature policy. You take the temperature twice a day, morning and night, and any horse that shows any sort of temperature is going to be has less than 2 hours to evacuate the premises.
Right, and there you go. And that's something, equine herpes virus is not something as has been mentioned in a lot of places, but just to keep driving it home, it's not a new disease. It's a new outbreak of the disease, but it's something that a lot of horse populations have been dealing with for a long time, and it's not an automatic death sentence. It's a disease, and it's a neurologic disease, which is never fun, especially in a large animal. But it's something that we've been dealing with for a while. So if people are just careful, biosecurity is important, and not just for herpes virus. I mean, also for things like, strangles. Or, we've had some questions lately about, does my horse really need a Coggins to go to this show? Yes. I mean, we're trying to keep diseases out of these areas where horses can congregate and spread it quickly and then take it home to all points of the globe as happens. So I think honestly, nobody likes an outbreak, but it's good that people are getting reminded to be careful for a number of reasons, not just herpes.
Christy, I wanted to ask you about something else too, and you guys have probably done some articles on it, and I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit. We're waiting for Dr. Jones is apparently incommunicato at the moment, so we're waiting, trying to get her on the line. She is a veterinarian, so we have to expect that occasionally.
She's crazy busy right now, and see if Jennifer got my note about her cell number as well.
She said cell got machine, no service right now, went right to there, so she's still trying.
Okay, no worries.
But in the meantime, we've been covering, obviously, the Boyd Martin fire story. And have you guys done, Jamie had an excellent question, is when a horse has smoke inhalation, like his horses did, have you guys done articles? Is there recovery possible, or do they always have damage? Can they ever compete at the top levels again? Do you know anything about that?
That's an excellent question, and we've got an article. Of course, we have an article on this. We have articles on almost everything.
I figured.
Perfect. By the way, Erin says try or sell again. We have an article on thehorse.com. It's number 10732. It's about the wildfires that happened a few years ago, and it was just written in association with that about dealing with smoke inhalation. And, excuse me, one of the questions, number 4 on the list, is how long does it take the lungs and upper airway to heal? And the short answer is time required for healing of the respiratory tract varies with the severity and duration of the insult. In general, the upper respiratory tract will recover more quickly than the lower respiratory tract. Mild cases of smoke inhalation may require 2 to 4 weeks for recovery to occur, but more severe cases will take months, and the most severe cases will heal with some scar tissue, which could result in chronic respiratory problems. So it depends on how much smoke they got.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Sure. And but again, if you want to check that the rest of the things in that article out, questions, what can be done to protect horses in smoky areas if you can't get them out? Again, not so much a fire in the barn scenario as something where there's a lot of fires in the area. What can you do if your horse was in smoke and is coughing and has watery eyes or nasal discharge? What happens when a horse breathes in smoke for multiple days, and things like that. So there's a number of questions there you might want to check out. And again, that's thehorse.com/10732.
And I know you guys are also keeping up on the Boyd Martin situation as well as the Chronicle and Eventing Nation. So, yeah, if somebody wants information, they can check any of those places, of course. All right, it looks like we have Dr. Jones is ready here, and we're getting her. I'm trying to get her on the line here. Are you there, Dr. Jones?
Yes, sir. I am so sorry. I tried calling back, and I could hear you guys talking about me, and it was all smack, and I was really disappointed. And I'm here. I can hear you.
Perfect. Well, and actually, Erin, now that you're here,
I keep forgetting that.
and now that Erin's here, we wanted to talk a little bit of smack to you guys, by the way, Glenn and Jamie.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's got to be a little bit of payback because if you'll remember, the last couple of shows that we've done, we've asked about the jingle because we haven't had the jingle, and we missed the jingle. We like the jingle.
I played it today. Did you hear it?
You played it today, and you played it last week when neither one of us were here.
We were so disappointed.
Well, here.
It's time for the weekly health report from thehorse.com. Fantastic information and Christy's attempt to ruin Glenn's lunch every week.
Are you happy now?
I feel so much better.
I definitely do. So let's go ahead and try to ruin Glenn's lunch and get on to our topic.
Go for
I'll
it.
be back in about 10 minutes, guys.
No, stay right here.
You don't get to leave. All right, so we're talking about strangles, as you know, and I think Erin's got some really good, nasty strangle stories just to talk about what is strangles and what kind of clinical signs it has, and let's pull out all the stops, please.
Well, as we all know, the word strangles is used because the horses would have enlarged lymph nodes underneath the jaw that would cut off their ability to breathe and strangle them. So that's where the name came from. It's because of the bacteria, Strep equi, that is growing in their respiratory tract and lodges in those lymph nodes and abscesses. So, as you know, Glenn, with abscessing, there's a lot of pus, a lot of swelling, and they get so large that they actually bust open and discharge. So before they bust open and discharge, that's your best time to address the situation to try to treat it so it doesn't bust open and discharge, because once they discharge, they're discharging all that bacteria and able to spread it from horse to horse. And, of course,
that's the best time to tell your wife, call the vet, I'm out of here, and then you go play golf. That is what a horse husband does at a time like that.
And they go wash their hands before they leave and change their clothes and maybe even scrub their boots.
No.
Into that big slobbering pile that's on the ground of pus.
It doesn't matter because we never got that close.
Oh, really? Okay. Now, besides the discharge coming from underneath the lymph nodes, it also comes profusely out the nostrils. And it's loads of fun to walk down a whole barn that's having a strangles outbreak and seeing horses hanging their heads out stall doors with a big puddle of pus underneath them. It's just pouring out. And that's the biggest problem with this is it goes horse to horse to horse. They usually don't die. They usually don't strangle themselves to death, but they do get the disease very easily. So we call it an endemic, meaning it spreads from one to the other very quickly, disease. So that decreases your training time. It decreases the health, the ability to go out and ride or enjoy your horse. And it increases your cost because you've got care, meaning veterinary care, vaccine care, daily cleanup care, biosecurity cleanup, things like that. So it's a very costly disease. It's usually not costly in the death of a horse unless things go wrong, but it is a costly disease.
Nice and messy for Glenn. So, make sure you're not walking through those puddles as you go through the barn, back to the clean in the booth.
This is divorce. I think if there was a whole barn outside, I was the horse husband, and the whole barn had strangles, that's grounds for divorce right there. That's just, I'm out of here, I'll see it. Or at least not divorce, separation for about, how long does it take to get it out of there? That's how long you're separated.
It depends on when you catch it in the process of the disease. Again, if before they abscess, if they're not too big, you can start treating with penicillin or some other appropriate antibiotic, and the horse can get better. But if it's already gotten to an abscess point or busted open, it's usually too late to treat with an antibiotic because the abscess is walled off from the blood supply and it doesn't get into the area it needs to get into.
Okay, let's back up here a little bit, because you guys have been trying to gross Glenn out, and he's been jumping in and everything. I want to get to the meat of this, because this actually is kind of a
bad
big deal.
word to use right now.
It's all good.
So to give a general overview on Strangles, what does it look like in your horse, and how does your horse get it, and then what should you do immediately?
Okay, what it looks like, we kind of went over that briefly just to gross Glenn out, but it can look as simple as little nodules underneath the mandible are getting slightly enlarged and firm feeling. They're hot and tender. Now, that happens with any respiratory problem because the lymph nodes act like a filtering unit. They filter out all the fluids that are flowing from front to back and trying to filter out any kind of bugs that they might be coming across to help clean the system. That's what lymphatics do. So they can enlarge on any kind of respiratory problem like the EHV, influenza, any other upper respiratory problem. So you don't can it too much on it, but you should keep a close eye, and I would start isolating that horse immediately. And that means a stall next to it on either side, and if you have stalls that go nose to nose behind you, in caddy corner, they all need to be cleared out and emptied so that horse doesn't have anybody nearby. 35 feet is how far they can sneeze or cough and spread the mucus and bacteria. So even across an aisleway, which usually aisleways are anywhere around 10 to 12 feet across, that horse across the way could actually get infected as well. So this is simply, it could look like enlarged lymph nodes and this discharge coming out of the nose. It could be as bad as the lymph nodes abscess, and you get, seriously, a puddle of pus underneath the horse coming from the nose and from the lymph nodes, spreading it all over the stall, and that just becomes a nightmare in trying to clean up and do your biosecurity that everybody's been talking about lately with EHV. It's a more obvious biosecurity. Now, to avoid and protect your horse from it is definitely make sure that you don't share water buckets. Same thing as with the herpes discussion we've had this last month. Don't share water buckets. Don't share water troughs. Don't go nose to nose with horses you don't know anything about. Introducing new horses to your barn, make them be isolated for 21 to 30 days before you introduce them to the herd or introduce them into the main barn. Those are just simple common sense ideas. Don't share bits. Anything that would come in contact with saliva or nose or nasal secretions, you should definitely avoid. If you have had a problem with strangles on your farm previously, it is not a problem in the soil of the farm, which is an old thought process. It is more of a problem that comes from a particular horse that's a carrier, and that horse may never show signs of the disease. They may be a carrier that just spreads it, and then the next horse gets it and has the fulminant disease process go on. What can you do to prevent? Besides doing the biosecurity, you yourself can vaccinate your own horse. Those vaccines don't completely keep them from getting the disease. They just decrease the severity of the disease. There's intramuscular ones that have many side effects to them, and the fact of being very, very painful. Horses act like they're lame after they get the shot, and it's just a very painful shot to give. The other one is an intranasal one. It's been out for at least 10 years, and it goes to where the bug actually harbors, which is up in the guttural pouch and nasal area, nasopharynx area, and it coats the mucosa and protects them from getting the disease in an exorbitant amount, such as the enlarged lymph nodes and such. That one has other side effects, too. There have been abscesses found in the muscle of horses that were given an IM shot at the same time, whether that was contamination by the person giving the IM shot or whether it is truly circulated to the blood and lands in the IM spot. The jury's out on that. That discussion seems to go back and forth quite a bit. So I always recommend giving that shot alone by itself without any other IV or IM shots. And then the other side effects they can get is an autoimmune response to that vaccine. But they're all trying to protect the horse in its best effort. So if you think you're in a population that might have a tendency to see strangles, you might want to protect your horse for it with either the vaccine or just keep them away from horses you don't know. So did I cover everything on that, Jennifer? Or is it Jamie that asked?
Yeah, you did great. I mean, especially, the vaccine thing. First of all, my horse is not just allergic to many vaccines. He's allergic to needles. And he's also allergic to certain types of vaccines, which is really fun. But he did not have a reaction to the intranasal Strangles vaccine, Strangles thing that he got. So how effective is the intranasal one?
It is effective, better than the IM ones, because it does decrease the severity of the disease. But in an outbreak, they recommend you do not vaccinate with any of the vaccines. So let's say you're in a barn and all of a sudden you found out a horse at your barn got Strangles and you want to run and vaccinate. They highly recommend you do not do that. So this is something you're going to do ahead of time. You're going to have to pre-plan for it. But as far as you said, the side effects to it is very minimal. Up the nose, the most you'll ever see is a clear nasal discharge the next day. Big deal. It's nothing life-threatening. There's no fever. There's no soreness, anything like that. So it's a very good vaccine in that respect.
Oh, good. So, yeah, that's very important. Now, I think what you guys, it says Strangles is this very scary word to most horse owners. Strangles, that's what everybody freaks out. And obviously, you do have so many preventative measures that you have to take when you do have a horse with Strangles on your property. So, Christy, I believe you guys have a webinar coming up about this.
We don't have a webinar coming up on Strangles. We do have one on upper respiratory infections in general that probably will touch on that, and that will be June 30th. So it'll probably cover herpes as well, flu. There's a number of things it will cover. So definitely take a look at that. You can sign up for that at thehorse.com/webinars. But I also wanted to talk about, and Erin touched on it briefly, the guttural pouches. And this is something that people have heard about but don't necessarily understand what they are and how the bacteria can live in them and cause outbreaks later. Erin, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. They have just recently found out that that's where the bug Streptococcus is hiding out and doing its little colonization, if you want to call it that, and reproducing itself. It's a nice warm environment that's in the back of the throat or between the head and the throat, nasopharynx area is what we call it. And some people compare it to like the inner ear, the middle ear, in humans, but it has a bunch of blood vessels that run on the outside of it. It has some bones that run through it. Your vet can go up and scope into it, or a vet can go up and scope into it and look for pus in there if you have any concern that you might have a horse that has some sort of discharge that's coming from that area. They have tested many farms that have had annual Strangles outbreaks, and how they test them is they put saline lavage into these guttural pouches, catch what comes out the nose, and then they test it for the Strangles bug. And that horse that is positive for what they call guttural pouch lavage is one that they will start to treat. And they treat in the guttural pouch. They don't treat with systemics. They treat in the guttural pouch. Then they retest them again to make sure they clear them up. And a lot of these consistently Strangles barns every year are now seeing no Strangles cases.
Perfect.
Okay.
And I just want to let everyone know, I just posted a link on the Horses in the Morning page. That article for that, we've actually got a diagram of those guttural pouches that you can take a look at. Excuse me, that's at thehorse.com/15229, I believe. Let me pull that back up. Yes, 15229. So.
Good deal. Well, you guys, thank you so much. Unfortunately, because we got a little late start, we are running a little bit late. But definitely check out thehorse.com. Pastor Jones, we missed you. It was good to have you back.
I missed you guys, too. I was looking forward to it, so I was bummed I missed the first call that came through, but I just was in a little area that didn't pick up the first time around. So I'm glad to have joined you guys today. Thank you very much for having me again.
Can I have a request? Next week, can we talk something about massage or...
Actually, Glenn, you're reading my mind. I was actually thinking about a physical therapist coming on and talking about physical therapy and horses.
Oh, perfect. No blood and guts in that. I like it.
I thought I'd get on your good side for once here, Glenn, so.
I think she's going to tease you.
Too bad. It was just the part about walking through the barn and
walking through the pus on the floor.
Walking through the pus on the floor. That was it. It wasn't bad.
Well, usually you don't walk through it. Usually you slip on it.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Flat on your back in the puddle. There you go, Glenn.
That is not horse husband approved. That is grounds for divorce, and we get everything except the horse.
But just think of what a hero you are when you help in that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Thanks to thehorse.com for providing these weekly health reports. And, well, I don't know if that one made your day or not, but you certainly should have learned a little bit about strangles along the way. And what I learned is you just don't want your horses to get it. Not a fun thing. We'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.